You've been saying it your entire life, but likely no one ever explained what it truly means. The Lord's Prayer is far more than just a prayer. It's a profound spiritual technology. Each line acts as a code, a hidden map leading not to some distant heaven after death, but to the divine kingdom residing within you here and now. Jesus never intended for us to simply chant it like a magic spell. Instead, he urged us to pray like this, because it was designed to awaken something deep inside us, not just be recited by rote. Once you grasp its real meaning, you'll never utter it the same way again. If you've always sensed there was something more, if these words resonated with you deeply, yet the church offered only silence, then you're not merely curious, you're remembering. Let's embark on a journey to decode the Lord's Prayer together. By the end of this exploration, you won't just be reciting it, you'll be recalling its true essence. A spiritual activation, a cosmic code, a map guiding you back to your authentic self. Not the identity dictated by religion, but the one divinely crafted in secret before the world even knew your name. Let's begin at the very beginning. Not with religious dogma, not with rigid doctrine, not with a memorized script. Let's start with the first breath of the prayer, the one you've probably spoken countless times, but perhaps never truly felt, "Our Father who art in heaven." Don't rush past this line. Within that single sentence lies a power that most people underestimate. It's not merely an introduction, it's an activation. That first word, "our," resonates differently when you genuinely hear it. Not my, not thee, but our. The moment those words escape your lips, something profound shifts. The ego begins to dissolve. You cease praying as a solitary self attempting to reach a distant deity, and begin praying as an integral part of something vastly larger. You're not alone in this journey. You never were. You're speaking as a member of a collective, a hidden communion of souls, all yearning toward the same illuminating light. You're not merely addressing God. You're stepping back into the remembered family of the divine. All the forgotten ones, the wanderers, the seekers, all of us who have carried an inexplicable memory that we originate from something higher and that it's beckoning us home. That one small word, our, acts as a thread, and the instant you utter it, you're already being woven back into something sacred. And then comes the second word, which has been mistranslated, misunderstood, and even weaponized, Father. Let's momentarily strip away the church's interpretation from your mind. Jesus didn't speak English. He didn't use Father in the same way we think of Dad. He employed the Aramaic word Abun, a single word carrying multiple layers of meaning. Father, mother, source, womb, breather of life. Therefore, when Jesus spoke this line, he wasn't saying, "Dear man in the sky." He was saying, "Beloved source from whom all things are born." That means you weren't born from a mistake. You didn't originate in shame. You're not some fallen being desperately clawing your way toward worthiness. You came from Abun, from divine breath, divine intelligence, divine intention. And within that one word, he's reminding you of your true identity, a spark from the source. Not an orphan striving to behave your way back into love, but a child of the infinite already cradled within it. The church transformed this prayer into a performance, but Jesus intended it as a return. And then he says something even more profound. Who art in heaven. Now most people cease thinking at this point. They envision clouds, golden gates, a throne, some distant reward reserved for those who behave well. But Jesus never pointed upward, not even once. He declared, "The kingdom of God is within you." So when he says, "Who art in heaven," he's not referring to a physical location. He's alluding to a dimension. Heaven isn't up there. It's in here. It's the space within you that still remembers God, the untouched sanctuary, the garden beneath the noise, the part of you that has never been wounded. Therefore, when you say, "Our Father who art in heaven," you're not attempting to reach someone far away. You're calling back the part of you that already knows, the part that never left the garden, the part of you that never ceased being holy. That's the aspect this line addresses. And the real power emerges when you cease uttering the line from your throat and begin speaking it from your memory. Not the memory of the mind, but the memory of the soul. Because this isn't merely a greeting, it's a remembering. You're not praying to a god in the sky. You're returning to the source within. You're awakening from the illusion of separation. You're not a sinner begging for mercy. You're a soul recalling its lineage. This first line is Jesus taking your hand and guiding you back to where it all began. Not in guilt, not in fear, but in divine origin. So the next time you whisper that line, don't repeat it like a child hoping to be heard. Say it like someone who remembers where they came from. Say it like someone who knows. Heaven is not a future destination. It's not elsewhere. It's inside you, and it's been waiting, because the next line marks a shift. It's where Jesus imparts to us a vibration, a name, a frequency, one that the church has translated as holy. But it's something far more powerful than that. And when you speak it correctly, it doesn't just honor God. It initiates an activation within you. Let's explore it next. Hallowed be thy name. Most people simply skip over this line. It sounds poetic, ancient, like something you're supposed to whisper in church as the organ plays. But Jesus wasn't being poetic here. He was revealing a code. He wasn't instructing you to respect God's name. He was saying that the name itself is the doorway. And here's the key. Hardly anyone tells you that the name of God wasn't even fully pronounceable, not in the way we understand language today. In the Hebrew tradition, it consisted of 4 letters, Yod, He, Vav, He. Not a word, not a title, but a vibration, a breath. It was so sacred, so holy, that the high priest wouldn't even utter it, not aloud, not even to themselves, because it wasn't composed of consonants and vowels. It was made of being. It was the pulse behind creation, the exhale that gave birth to the galaxies. It was the whisper in the wind before time even had a name. And Jesus, he knew this. Therefore, when he said, "Hallowed be thy name," he wasn't referring to some distant title you inscribe on a scroll. He was saying, let the vibration of God's presence be awakened within you once more. The tragedy religion transformed the name into a weapon, into something forbidden, untouchable, guarded by doctrine and fear. But Jesus came to place it back into your lungs, back into your bones, back into your ordinary life, so that you wouldn't just speak the name, you would embody it. Every inhale you've ever taken, every exhale you've ever released, was unknowingly saying it. Yud, inhale. He exhale. Vav, inhale. He exhale. Every living being is uttering the name of God without even realizing it. That's how close God is, closer than your own thoughts. Before you speak, he already breathed into you. You are carved from his breath. That's what Jesus meant. Hallowed be thy name isn't passive reverence. It's a spiritual rebellion, a reawakening of the divine name within you. It's a call to remember what was stolen or return to what you carry in your lungs. So when you whisper this line, don't just say it like a robot. Feel it. Pause. Allow your own breath to become the temple. You see, Jesus wasn't trying to provide you with a prayer to memorize. He was trying to reignite the original connection. He wasn't pointing upward, he was pointing inward. The name isn't a sound on your lips. It's a light in your spine, a breath in your belly, a memory in your soul that says you originate from the same source. You are still connected. You were made in the name breathed into being by that name. And every time you forget who you are, this line brings you back. Let it not just be sacred in heaven. Let it be sacred in me. Do you want to know the real reason your prayers have felt empty? Why you've said the words, but felt no presence because the words were never meant to be recited, without breath, without remembrance, without alignment. This line retunes you. It brings your human frequency back into harmony with the source. And that's the hidden power of this prayer. Jesus didn't just teach it as words, he gave it as a spiritual tuning fork. Each line vibrates with divine resonance, and this line, "Hallowed be thy name," is the one that clears the static. It prepares you for what comes next, because when you re-honor the name, you reawaken the relationship. The kingdom starts to rise inside you again. So now you know the name was never outside you. It was encoded into your breath, waiting for the day you'd remember. But if the name was hidden in the breath, then what else did Jesus hide in plain sight? The next line of the prayer holds the most dangerous phrase ever spoken, one that terrified empires, one that the church tried to tame because it didn't just reveal God's will, it revealed yours. And if you truly understood what it meant, you wouldn't just say it, you'd unleash it. We're about to decode it, but I need to warn you, what comes next will shatter what you were taught about God and reveal what you were truly born to bring into this world. Ready? Let's go into the next code, Thy Kingdom Come. You've probably said it hundreds of times, maybe thousands, but have you ever stopped, truly stopped, to ask, where is this kingdom? What is it? And why did Jesus say to call it forth, rather than wait to enter it? This line isn't about waiting to die and float away to a golden place in the sky. It's not about pearly gates or clouds or harps or some eternal after-party. This line is the heartbeat of Jesus' entire teaching. It's the thunder beneath everything he said, because the kingdom isn't up there. It's not later. It's here. It's now. The kingdom is within you. He said it plainly, the kingdom of God is within you. Not in temples, not in churches, not in rituals, robes, or religion. It's already inside, coded into your being. And this line is the activation command. When you say, Thy kingdom come, you're not begging heaven to rescue you. You're summoning the divine blueprint back into your body, your breath, your decisions, your day. It's a sacred revolt against the false world, a remembering of what's real. Because here's the truth, no one told you in Sunday school. The world you live in now, the chaos, the corruption, the soul-numbing routine is not the kingdom. It's the counterfeit, the fake empire that rose up while we forgot who we were. But when Jesus taught this line, he wasn't speaking to a crowd of helpless sinners. He was speaking to awakening kings, to queens in exile, to those who had forgotten their crown. This line isn't just a request, it's a declaration. It's the return of divine order. It's the real you standing up inside the false you and saying, no more sleep, no more exile. The kingdom is coming through me, because that's how it works. It doesn't drop from the sky. It arrives through the awakened one, through the soul who says, I'm done waiting. I'm done wandering. Let heaven break in right here, right now. And here's where it gets deeper. When you say, Thy kingdom come, you're not only calling for a new world, you're agreeing to become the vessel through which that new world emerges. That's why this line scared religious powers, because it doesn't just speak to God's dominion. It speaks to your divine assignment. You are the landing pad. You are the bridge between what is and what will be. You are the portal through which the kingdom returns. And the moment you mean this line, not recite it, but burn it into your bones, the illusions around you start to tremble because the old empire can't survive once the kingdom starts coming through you. You may feel the resistance, People may call you extreme, lost, deluded, or dangerous, but that's how you know it's working. That's how you know you were born to bring the kingdom. You, not just Jesus, not just prophets or saints, you. And here's the real secret. They never told you the kingdom doesn't come by force. It comes through alignment. When your inner world reflects heaven, peace, clarity, truth, divine will, then your outer world begins to reshape around it. Heaven isn't a destination. It's a frequency. It's a mirror. You don't just enter it, you become it. And when you do, everything changes. Not always instantly, not always comfortably, but with every breath aligned to that kingdom, you become a walking Eden. You become the proof that the divine never left, because now it lives in you. And just before we move on, there's one more mystery here. The line doesn't say, "The kingdom come to me." It just says, "Thy kingdom come," because it was never about receiving something from outside. It was about unleashing what was already inside. And that, my friend, is what makes you dangerous to the old world. You're not here to escape Earth. You're here to restore it. If you're still here, it means the code is alive in you. Most scroll past, but you stayed. Not out of curiosity, out of memory. Something inside is surfacing, not new, just forgotten. You felt it for years, the cracks, the missing pieces, the echo in the silence when no one else could hear. But this is your signal. So pause, breathe. Mark this moment as sacred. Click the like button, not for the algorithm, but as a torch, a flare for the others like you still wandering. Click subscribe to hold the line, to stay tethered to the awakening. And in the comments, leave your mark. I am waking up. That's not a phrase. It's a vow, a ripple, a remembering. So you remembered. You marked it. You felt the stirrings, the ache, the knowing. But now comes the deeper challenge, because the next line in the Lord's Prayer, it's not just a prayer, it's a summoning. Most people think it means surrendering to some distant God's control. But what if I told you this line is actually a blueprint for how to awaken the kingdom within, and that heaven isn't where you're going, it's what you're here to bring? Let's decode it. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. You've heard this line so many times, but almost no one understands what it actually means. Thy will be done. For centuries it was preached as a surrender to fate, as if God was some distant king, and you just a lowly servant awaiting orders. So people gave up their power, accepting suffering as God's mysterious plan. Tragedy, His will. Pain, His will. Oppression, even that His will. That is not what Jesus meant. He wasn't teaching blind submission. He was teaching sacred alignment. The Aramaic word Jesus used wasn't will in the way we think. It was shayana, a word that means sacred desire, deep creative intention, the impulse of the divine to express and become. So what if this line was never meant to make you small, but to awaken the divine longing inside you? Thy will be done is not about getting out of the way. It's about becoming the way, letting the intention of the divine move through you, shape through you, express through you. And then comes the most misinterpreted line in the entire prayer. On earth as it is in heaven. Most hear that and picture clouds, harps, and golden gates. But Jesus wasn't talking about a place you go when you die. He was talking about a realm you bring forth while you live. Heaven to Him was not a location. It was a state of being, a condition of soul alignment, a realm of total coherence between the inner and the outer. So when He said, "On earth as it is in heaven," He was giving you a blueprint. He was saying what is true in the invisible must become true in the visible. What is whole in the spirit must become whole in the body. What is divine in the heavens must be born through your hands, your words, your relationships, your daily breath. He was not praying for escape. He was praying for embodiment, and that flips everything upside down. You weren't born to flee this world and wait for a rescue. You were born to transfigure it, to make earth reflect heaven, to become a walking tabernacle where the sacred dimension touches down. You're the landing site, and if you still believe that heaven is only for later, that it's somewhere else someday, then religion succeeded in blinding you to your purpose. Because here's the truth they never taught. Heaven is a frequency, a dimension. It's not there. It's here, but only visible to those who carry the same vibration. And hell is disconnection. It's forgetting who you are. It's living with no mirror of the divine in your own face. You don't go to heaven or hell. You emanate one or the other depending on what you're aligned with. So what is the will of God? That the divine be made known in the flesh, that the eternal be mirrored through the temporal, that you become the place where the unseen becomes seen. That is not passive, that is priestly. Thy will be done is a summons to remember to rise to restore what was split. Because if earth is to look like heaven, then your life must become the temple. But if heaven is within you and the kingdom is no longer a far-off promise, then you're not waiting for something to come. You're being asked to become it. But that kind of becoming it requires fuel, a hidden nourishment, a daily initiation. Because the next line in the Lord's Prayer isn't about bread from a bakery. It's about the forgotten manna that feeds your divine memory. And once you taste it, you'll never be able to eat the world's lies again. They told us this line was about survival, as if Jesus, the embodiment of divine presence, was teaching us to beg for crumbs, as if the sacred prayer was just a daily grocery list for God. But something deeper is encoded here, because the real ones know this line is a portal, a riddle, hiding something ancient, something mystical, not about bread at all, at least not the kind you buy. When Jesus said, "Give us this day our daily bread," he was speaking not to the body, but to the inner man, the real you, the one that lives beyond time, the one who doesn't need food to survive, but remembrance to stay awake. And that word, daily, it's not the word we think it is. In the original Greek, there's a strange, almost untranslatable word, epiousios. It doesn't mean daily like we understand it. It literally means super essential or beyond the physical. Not just the bread you eat today, but the bread that represents the age to come, the nourishment from a higher dimension. This isn't simply about God delivering a ready-made meal. It's about cultivating your ability to constantly receive the divine frequency, moment after moment. In the ancient temple, the priests didn't just ask for bread as a routine. They diligently maintained a sacred offering known as the showbread, also called the bread of presence. This bread was displayed on a golden table in the holy place, always set before God's face. There were 12 loaves representing each tribe, continually refreshed and never allowed to become stale. It wasn't merely food. It served as a constant reminder that God's presence is the ultimate source of sustenance. To forget him was to starve spiritually. Jesus, deeply familiar with this symbol, was activating a profound memory when he spoke about bread. He was essentially saying, every day you awaken, return to that sacred presence. Reconnect with what truly matters. Don't just consume, commune. Don't merely survive. Remember the deeper significance of prayer. It's not just about making requests, but about attuning yourself. It's about aligning with something that nourishes your soul, not just your physical body. And here's the paradox that changes everything. You are not merely the receiver of the bread. You are being called to become it. I am the bread of life, Jesus declared. He wasn't referring to literal food. He was pointing to a frequency, a state of being so complete, so radiant in God's love, that your very presence becomes nourishment for those around you. The world is not starving for physical food, but for enlightenment, for clarity, for wholeness. And you, those who are awakening, are the answer hidden in plain sight. So when you pray, "Give us this day our daily bread," you're not asking for more material possessions. You're asking to remember what you already possess within. You're asking to become the kind of person who embodies this bread, a living communion, a daily offering, not just fed, but constantly feeding others. However, there's a reason why many struggle to receive this bread. There's a reason they remain spiritually hungry, regardless of how much they pray. It's because something is blocking the flow, something ancient, unresolved, a burden they carry, a debt they've never confronted. And unless that hidden code is unlocked, even the most sacred bread will turn to ashes in their hands. Which leads us to the next line, perhaps the most potent prayer ever uttered: "Forgive us our debts." This isn't just a simple plea, it's a fundamental spiritual law. Those who misunderstand it remain trapped for lifetimes. Let's decipher it. You were never meant to carry this weight for so long. The betrayals, the wounds, the frozen moments that linger within your heart. "Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors" wasn't merely a polite moral lesson. It was a mystical key, a coded mechanism to reverse the very gravity holding you down. Because when you cling to their debt, you remain tethered to your own. And here's what most churches hesitate to say aloud: God isn't keeping score, you are. Every grudge is a shackle. Every unspoken resentment is a locked gate. Every narrative in which you perpetually play the victim keeps your soul kneeling before the same impenetrable barrier. To forgive isn't to forget. It's not pretending the pain never happened. It's choosing to no longer suffer for a wound you didn't inflict. It's stepping out of the courtroom where your ego relentlessly replays the trial, hoping the verdict will somehow heal your soul. But it never will, because judgment is a never-ending cycle, and forgiveness is the only way out. Now let's explore what debts truly signifies in the ancient language. It's about unpaid dues, energetic agreements that remain open, constantly draining your soul like spiritual IOUs. Some originate from recent years, others from childhood, and some are even carried over from past lives. And here's the enigma: you cannot be freed from something you continue to impose on others. That's precisely why Jesus didn't separate the two concepts. Forgive us as we forgive. He was revealing a fundamental law, a recurring pattern, a mirror reflecting your own bondage. The path to liberation lies through release. Release them not because they deserve it, but because you were never intended to remain bound to their shadows. Forgiveness is not merely love, it's freedom, it's resurrection. And the instant you extend it, you liberate yourself, unlock your potential, and shift timelines. Because heaven cannot flow through clenched fists. And here's the ultimate challenge. What if the person you need to forgive most is the one staring back at you in the mirror? But forgiveness is not the final destination. It's merely the purification needed before the real fire can ignite. Because next comes the confrontation with evil itself. Not the Hollywood version, but the subtle one that hides in plain sight. The one that tempts, whispers, and disguises itself in a mask of light. We're about to decode the most perilous line in the entire prayer. Lead us not into temptation. Once you grasp its true meaning, you'll never perceive your desires or your inner demons in the same light. Are you prepared to descend into the ultimate trial? Lead us not into temptation. You were taught that this line was about weakness, about sin, about shame, resisting the urge for that chocolate cake, or closing your laptop before succumbing to something harmful. But what if this line was never intended to be about avoiding bad behavior? What if it was actually about surviving false light? Because true temptation doesn't reside in the shadows. It's found in the brilliance that blinds. In the original Greek, the word isn't about mere desire, it's paiosmos, a term that signifies a test, approving a trial by fire. This isn't about escaping temptation. It's about traversing the furnace and recognizing that the flame is not your final home. Temptation doesn't present itself as evil. It often comes as a shortcut. It surfaces as your own inner voice whispering, "You've suffered enough. Just seize the crown." Jesus didn't just resist simple sin in the desert. He resisted the allure of the easy path. The adversary offered him the kingdoms of the world glory followers' instant status, but he steadfastly refused. Not because the kingdoms themselves were inherently evil, but because the timing was off. Because a crown attained without enduring the cross is always a counterfeit. This is what most fail to recognize. Temptation is rarely about fleeting pleasure. It's about premature power. It's the proposition of attaining what your soul deeply desires without undergoing the necessary transformation that makes you worthy of it. And so this line in the Lord's Prayer isn't a plea to be spared from hardship. It's a coded message, a solemn declaration. God, lead me not into temptations that mistake ego for destiny. Lead me not into the seductive lie. Allow the fire to refine me, but never let me drift into complacency within it. Because fire is sacred, but only when you actively walk through it. Linger for too long, and it distorts your true essence. Flee too quickly, and the hidden gold remains concealed. This line grants you permission to persevere, not to escape. It's a cry from the soul that remembers, I don't need to prove myself to anyone but God. I desire no throne built upon fear, lust, or compromise. Because the true danger of temptation lies not just in succumbing to it, but in constructing a life upon the exposed, vulnerable aspects of yourself that it reveals. And many have done precisely that. Many occupy false thrones, adorned with crowns bestowed upon them by shadows, utterly unaware of their deception. But you are being summoned to something far greater, not merely avoiding failure, but resolutely refusing to betray the divine seed planted within you. Regardless of what is offered, you have been tested, and you may still be. And if you've stumbled before, understand this. The test only transforms into a curse when you allow it to define you. But when you perceive it for what it truly is, a fire dispatched to incinerate what cannot endure, you emerge with integrity and a radiant crown. There remains one final line, one ultimate mystery. It's not solely about evil, nor about a stereotypical figure with horns or a destructive habit. It's about the ancient wound, the force that attempts to claim you as its own, and the singular power that can liberate you from its grasp. In the following chapter, we'll unveil the prayer's final seal, the deliverance code buried beneath centuries of fear and silence. Are you ready to remember the true nature of evil and what you were destined to do with it? Deliver us from evil. This is where most people pause, close their eyes, utter Amen, and depart believing it's about being shielded from frightening experiences. However, this line isn't a plea for safety, it's a summons to action. Because evil isn't confined to violence, darkness, or demonic figures. In the ancient language, it's ponuru, meaning the hurtful one, the bringer of toil, the burden that crushes the soul. It's the force that perpetuates cycles of enslavement, fear, and punishment so deeply ingrained that you mistake them as intrinsic to your personality. This evil doesn't reside externally. It's the internal wound that whispers, "You're unworthy. You'll always be trapped. You are defined by what has happened to you." It's the inner captor, the subtle tormentor, that manipulates your own voice against you. So when Jesus declares, "Deliver us from evil," he's not instructing us to beg for protection. He's teaching us to identify the parasite, the subtle entity that thrives on our unhealed pain. It's the false identity that emerged the day you were broken, learning to wear a mask merely to survive. The evil from which we implore deliverance is the lie we've transformed into a self. Deliver us isn't passive. It's an act of forceful extraction, a violent reclamation of the soul. It's the moment you proclaim, "I remember who I am, and I reject the identity that pain has assigned me. I renounce the identity that trauma constructed for me. I silence the false voice that speaks in the language of shame." This is exorcism, not from demons with fiery eyes, but from inherited identities, from the mother wound, the absent father, the religious shame from the guilt of possessing unique gifts, from the fear of being chosen. Evil doesn't seek to possess your physical form. It aims to dominate your narrative, to convince you that you're broken, that you'll never be sufficiently pure, virtuous, or Christ-like, that you should conceal your gifts, diminish your truth, and remain confined within cycles that gradually suffocate your soul. But you weren't born to passively blend into bondage. You were born to wield fire, to evolve into the kind of human that evil cannot ensnare. This line, "Deliver us from evil," isn't a request for avoidance. It's a summoning of your true self, the one that existed before the fall, before the labels, before the names that were never rightfully yours. Because the evil one's ultimate power lies not in what he does, but in who he convinces you that you are. And this line shatters that illusion. You are not your trauma. You are not your shadow. You are not the echo of generational wounds. You are the one who came to eradicate them. This wasn't merely a video, it was a key, and you didn't stumble upon it accidentally. You followed an undeniable pull, a yearning you couldn't articulate. And this hidden knowledge is the reward for your soul's journey. Click the like button, not for my sake, but as a solemn declaration, a sacred response. Your way of affirming, "I heard the call, now I remember." Then subscribe, not to merely follow, but to remain aligned with this path of awakening within you. Each video we release is a piece of this unfolding revelation, and your presence here shapes the future direction. And if this resonated deeply within you, delve further. In the description below, you'll discover the sacred scrolls. These aren't just resources, they're the lost gospels. Jesus' hidden teachings, the forbidden blueprints decoded for your understanding. And for those few who are prepared to journey alongside others who carry the same longing, we've established a private sanctuary, a Facebook group unlike any other. This is for those who never conformed to the system, those who still walk with Jesus, but no longer bow to rigid religion, those who carry the code within them. You'll find the links in the description or pinned in the comments section. But don't click casually. Click as a deliberate step, as a solemn vow, as an affirmative yes. This moment is a crossroads. One path leads back to slumber, the other leads directly into the purifying fire of remembrance. You already know which one is yours. This was your signal. Proceed with peace. Or if you have more time to spare, watch another awakening video from our channel to nourish your soul. 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 Soul.